and connected by hotspot. So thank God for hotspots. But for whatever reason, it doesn't want to allow my camera to work. So I can see all of you, but you can't see me. So sorry about that.
Stacy, I'm not sure if Dr. Valerie's going to be able to join us. So
And that's fine.
we can get started whenever you're ready and go for it.
All right, sounds good. Why don't we jump in, guys, and start with the pledge, and then we'll do the oath and law. So I'll go ahead and lead you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And then we'll do the Scout oath. On my honor, I will do my best to do my duty to God and my country, and to obey the Scout law, to help other people at all times, to keep myself physically strong, mentally awake, and morally straight. And then right into the Scout law. A Scout is trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent. Chew. Thank you all.
Stacey, our third guest has joined us. Just one
Oh, great.
You saw her since you're having connectivity issues.
I did not.
We're all here, I think, now.
Fantastic. Welcome, Dr. Valerie. Thank you for joining us. We are going to jump in then just real quick. Again, my internet has caused a little hiccup. The safety moment that I wanted to bring to you today is mostly to call attention to September being Suicide Awareness Month. The National BSA site has a video that they have provided. What I wanted to show you is the Aaron on Scouting article about it, which kind of orients you to the video and how you could use it in your units. It is meant for older kids, not for cubs, but it kind of gives you an idea of how to broach that topic that is so taboo in our society, but that needs to be talked about, and ways to check in with kids to see if they need assistance or if they need to be connected to somebody, or even just to let them know that somebody's there. So I think that that's probably going to be a really good site, and a good video to take a look at and consider sharing with your units. Please know it's about, I believe it's a 10-minute video, and then there's a 10-minute kind of debrief as part of the video. So it's about 20 minutes in total. And then there are also discussion questions, and it's meant to all go together. Like, it's, first of all, it's not meant for you to just send home with the kids and say, hey, go watch this. It's meant to be watched together and discussed together. And they give you some guidelines for that. Alex, would you, if you have a chance, I know you know the video because you're the one that sent it to me in the first place. Would you mind putting it in the chat just so folks can get to it?
One step ahead of you, Stacy.
Thank you. And then, so anyway, yeah. And also, just so everyone knows, Laurel is recording this chat so that if you want to refer back to it later, or if you need resources about anything that we've discussed, just feel free to reach out to any of us. All right. So I think we just need to, sorry, I'm bouncing between my my windows. So anyway, I wanted to just thank all of you for choosing to spend an hour with us. You didn't have to. I recognize that. You've likely worked all day, probably wrangled children, probably did stuff for your household. You probably already even did some scouting tonight, but it means a lot that you chose to be here with us. But I wanted to emphasize that this hour is meant to be for you, and to kind of replenish you, to give you tools, to give you resources, and to renew you to continue doing the work that you do. So if you have ideas for future roundtables, please feel free to shoot me a note. And I've already got a couple that some folks have sent me, so we're working them into the schedule. But we want to bring you things that are relevant to you and things that are going to help you now. So that's kind of what this one is about. I also wanted to thank all of our scouting professionals. I know you guys have already spent your entire day scouting, and you're still here with us, so we appreciate that. So tonight, our moderator, you know probably from the publicity that we've sent out that we have a panel tonight, but we also have a moderator. He's somebody that I met at the beginning of his scouting career, and I knew right away, I could tell right away he was conscientious, he was smart, and he was kind. I want to say it's been about 12 years, and he's just been steadfast in his service to scouting. He eventually took over as Cub Master of Pack 49, which was particularly helpful to us because that was the pack that my husband was Cub Master of, and it allowed us to move up to the troop. He now serves as our council's district commissioner, which means he manages and leads and advises our squadron of council commissioners. He does a lot of other things too. He helps problem solve all kinds of issues that are brought to his team. And he's always nice, and he's always pleasant and positive and hardworking. So we appreciate that a ton. He also serves as a leader for Troop 93, and of course, he's a parent to his scout. So I'm very happy to get to work with him again, and our council is lucky to have him on our side. He comes at scouting with several perspectives, as do our panelists, and I am pleased to introduce Mike Torres as our moderator for tonight.
Thank you, Stacy. What a warm welcome. I really appreciate that. That's very kind of you. So yeah, I'm very happy to be here. I'm very happy not only to help another hardworking commissioner. I think Stacy's been doing great on these roundtable meetings, these Cracker Barrels, but also to get some tips to better budget my own family's time. So I'm very excited to be here. I'm very excited for the conversation. So with that, we'll just get right to it. We have a wonderful group of panelists here that graciously agreed to come in and talk to us. And why don't we get to meet them? We'll go ahead and start with Miss Chelle Adams. Would you mind saying hello and introducing yourself? Maybe giving your role professionally and any relevant experiences of scouting that you have.
Thank you, Mike. My name is Chelle Adams, as Mike said. I'm Director of Human Resources at Key Logic, which is a government contractor. We're in about 40 states, but we have an office in Morgantown. I'm also a fiber artist with my own business. I do juried shows and supply tamarack. So I'm married to Ray, and I have two sons who started out in Tigers and are Eagle Scouts now. Noah's 26. He is an IT professional and a program manager, a software developer. And AJ is 23. He's a grad student, and he's in Durham in the United Kingdom right now in international business. Both were college grads, and they both lettered in high school in 3 high school sports, so football, lacrosse, and ice hockey, and did scouting too. So I wanted to talk about Noah camped with 44 and 64 in the Smokies, the Rockies, Dolly Sods. He went to Jamboree at Camp AP Hill. And AJ worked at Camp Mountaineer for about 5 years, sometimes with his dad. You may know my husband, who was the chef at Camp Mountaineer for about 6 years. And then AJ went on to work at Camp Pontiac in the Berkshires in the summers during college too, with his foundation at Camp Mountaineer. So that was exciting.
That's neat. That's neat.
I was a Cub Scout leader and Webelos leader, and then kind of as they headed for the troop, handed it off to my husband, who was Webelos leader and the troop chef, and I was troop trainer. So we had a great foundation. I always laugh. I was very much into Girl Scouting growing up, and was even a leader in college. And then it was a sad day in the Girl Scout office when I had all boys. So that's the way that went.
You were a very, very busy scouting family.
Oh yeah, very busy.
All right. Well, I look forward to hearing a whole bunch of tips and advice from you and the rest of the panel. So why don't we move on and say hello to Mr. Eric Stenger?
Hello.
Hi, Eric. Would you like to introduce yourself to our guests here?
Sure. Eric Stenger, originally from Morgantown, actually was an Eagle Scout in Troop 44, camp staff at Camp Mountaineer as a youth. Then went on to school professionally. I am a mortgage loan officer. I've been doing that for 30 years. And I have two boys in scouting. I started out with them as Cub Master, worked up through all the ranks with them, Weeblos, and became Assistant Scout Master in the troop. Both of the boys ended up being able to obtain Eagle, and both were very active in sports and band and show choir, as well as being able to maintain my oldest had a 4 something GPA, and my youngest got a 3.8 coming out of high school. So stayed very busy, but also stayed very focused, and were able to not only enjoy scouting, but become more well-rounded by being involved in scouting and everything else. So that's that was very important to us, and it has led them on great paths. My oldest is now, well, both of them are back in Morgantown. My oldest is there in law school, and he actually is working with the Order of the Arrow on a national level, helping them with some of their recruitment and their Thrive programs. And my youngest is there in Morgantown seeking a nursing degree. So
that's great. That's awesome. Well, good job. Congratulations on that. We'll go ahead and meet our last panelist here, Dr. Valerie Huffman.
Hello. Can you all hear me okay?
Hear you just fine. Thank you.
Okay. Hello, I'm Dr. Valerie Huffman. I'm the director of bands at Clay Battelle High School in Blacksville, out on the western end of Mon County. And my connection to scouting is I was a member of the Girl Scouts during my younger years. So that is, but I'm, hugely supportive of the Boy Scouts and what they all do and represent.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here. Well, while we're here is, well, the big question is, how do we keep things going when scouts are busy with other activities? I know some adults are feeling guilty that they can't get their kids to all these places. Some feel like they should maybe even quit their volunteer roles in their unit because they can't find the time to make all the commitments. So we'll talk about that a little bit here. Chelle, in general terms, how did you keep your family going and with all the activities and scouting and you having to get to work and eat and sleep?
Well, that's the first thing I told Tim. I said, well, first of all, I can't sleep. Got to cut that out. That's a waste of time. But seriously, number one is I made 5 points that are really key. You need to rely on your network of parents. None of this could be done without relying on other parents to help you out. I mean, we helped out people, they helped out people. And being very, very, very organized, knowing what's coming up and having all the equipment and everything that you need. And Eric mentioned taking on a leadership role, and that was really important for our family. And that gives you a little bit of power. If there's an event and there's a sport event or something, if you're in charge of that event, you can somewhat control the date, or the time. So, sometimes that really helps. And in our family, we really prioritize scouting. It was very, very important to all of us. And so it was a priority, even though other things also were priorities. Scouting was right up there. And my last point was follow up. If we missed something, we made sure we followed up on what we missed, if it was a badge or how we could get it, or, you know, go to Merit Badge University or something like that. That was always really important too. Not so much when they were Cubs, well, sometimes, but especially when they were Boy Scouts is the follow up. But organization, I'd say number one.
Yeah, your point was stay really, really organized. How do you do that? Did you have like a calendar? I mean, I know a lot of people use their phones now, but how did you do yours to stay organized?
Yeah, I always used an e-calendar that was color coded, with every sport had a color, every scouting thing had a color, every kid had a color. And that's pretty much how I did it. And if you had conflicts, you kind of, you know, decided which one was more priority. If, you know, and just sticking to that and making sure everybody was informed. Sometimes I felt like at that time, I miss it, believe it or not, but at that time I felt like I could move an army. You know, I could be the logistics person, because you could really you know, you have your hands in all these different things. But yes, a calendar is very effective, and an e-calendar is very effective, because then you don't have to carry markers and pens and paper.
For sure.
Let me
Hey, Mike, can I ask a question real quick?
yes.
Because I know a coping skill I had to come up with was uniforms. And when there's, you know, you're rushing off to something, it's like, oh my gosh, where's your soccer jersey? You know, what strategies did you use for you mentioned gear, Shelley, but what strategies did you have for that sort of thing?
Well, I held them responsible for it. But secretly, I checked everything before I went to bed the night before, because in the morning it's too late. Everybody's too crazy. You can't. I just checked everything the night before, but I made them responsible for it. And on occasion, things were forgotten, and oh well, you know.
Yep.
But I know that sounds maybe mean, but it didn't happen very often, because it will happen once and then not again, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up with one really organized kid and one really not organized kid. I don't know how that happened, but I still have one or the other, one and the other.
I did fail to mention at the beginning of the meeting here, if you have a question, go ahead and type it in the chat, or you can raise your hand. But as we get rolling, if we get a lot of questions, we'll go ahead and mostly rely on the chat though. Eric, do you have anything to add or modify what Shelley has said there?
Sure. One of the, I mean, being organized, I think is key from the parental side. We had very much the same thing. I used to joke, first one to the calendar wins. You know, because whoever puts it on the calendar first, whatever function it is, that's what we're going to be doing. And, but with the electronic calendar, Google Calendar, you could, you know, I could update the calendar. Every kid had a color. You know, my wife has her color. I have my color. So everybody knows who's got to be where, when, so we can all see it. And you can update, I could update my phone and it instantly updates everybody else. So everybody sees everything and it's easy to manage. So that was a key part. And then as a, flipping that a little bit from a leader standpoint, because I know with our unit, we've had several kids other than mine that were very, very committed to band, very committed to basketball, football, other sports. And as leaders, we always just said, we're going to provide the program. We're here when you're ready to be here. Come and we will make sure that you get the program and get you what you want out of the program, and just kind of left that door wide open to make sure that every kid didn't feel like it was us or football, us or soccer, that when that season was over, we'd be there for them. But if they wanted to remain serious in scouting, that they did need to at least put efforts in on that side of the fence. And we always felt if we could keep them involved and engaged to about 13, get them to a couple summer camps. That was really the key. And then after that, they kind of fed themselves as far as figuring out how to make it all work. We were certainly able to counsel them in that area, but it was up to each kid.
Very good. Okay. Did you have any leaders that had struggles with time management, whether demanding job or family? And if so, what kind of advice did you give them?
Absolutely. And really almost the same thing, just communication is key. As long as, and we were very lucky, we had a strong band of leaders that came through together, and I'm actually still involved. And if one of us wasn't going to be there, we just let the other person know. We always made sure we had at least two, somebody that was going to be in charge for whatever event or whatever meeting or whatever the case may be. But really just communication, because life happens. And when you got people, I'm in the Eastern Panhandle, and a lot of people commute for their jobs, and for an hour and a half commute one way, they might hit traffic on the way home, or they might just might have to stay late for a meeting. So making everything all the time is not necessarily possible. So just the leadership core being flexible as well, and being ready to just pick up, and again, being organized, having a set plan. What are we going to be doing? Where are we going to be going? How's it going to work?
Dr. Valerie, you are a band director and you deal with kids that have to be many different places all at once. Have you ever given advice to kids who maybe expressed concerns to you about not being able to make band practice because they have 3, 4 other activities? And if so, what did you tell them?
Well, I come from I have a small school to work with. I have only 350 students, grades 6 through 12. So it's a very small community type school where kids are involved with multiple organizations, whether sports, band, theater, so forth and so on. And a lot of it is, if we, as in the band director, the theater teachers, the coaches, we all talk to each other. And so we try not to step on each other's toes, so that we can say, okay, the football coaches know that band has practice every Tuesday night from 5:30 to 7:30. So they have football practice prior to band, or they'll have theater on nights that are not conflicting. So we try not to step on each other's toes. And so when a student comes to me and goes, hey, I'm playing football. Okay, that's fine. What can I still do band? Of course you can still do band. It may be that during the game you play football, and then during halftime we'll have someone down there with your horn, with your drum or whatever, get on the field, and then you can do that, or things like that. So we try to work with each other and communicate. It's kind of like what Eric says, communication is key. Otherwise, then nobody knows what's going on. And I'm a firm believer in it, and it takes a village for this all to work. So as long as everybody's kind of on the same page, and I try to tell students, don't worry about it. You do what you want to do. We'll make it work for you. And I know that's a little bit more difficult in a larger program kind of thing, but as long as the leadership in terms of the different coaches, teachers, directors, whatever, are all talking to each other and say, okay, hey, I'm not going to step on your toes tonight, so let's work this out, and then it's kind of a win-win for everybody. Yeah. And that's how we operate. Now, I know there are schools out there where they can be quite territorial, and it's like, you have to do this. But I'm one of these people that I like to get the schedules out early and often, so that if people are planning on say they're trying to figure out what night to do scouts, and say, okay, well, I know band meets on Tuesday, so maybe I can do it on a Thursday, and it doesn't conflict with football that has a game on Friday, that kind of thing. So we try to communicate and then get our scheduling together quite early.
Yeah. Have you ever had a third party where they weren't part of the school that the students had to navigate? Say it was some private martial arts place they had to go as well.
Yeah, we deal with like outside sports teams that travel, like the AAU kind of teams, and they're the competitive. So sometimes we have to work with the coaches there. Yeah, sometimes we have to deal with the outside organization. A lot of it out in the Western end of town is church. We have to deal with church, in that Wednesday night, you can't schedule anything on a Wednesday night because of church. And they're very active in their churches out on the Western end. And so you can't schedule a concert, you can't schedule a practice, you can't, and everybody knows that. So so we have to work with the outside entities as well. And as long as everybody's communicating, I mean, I hate to keep it down to something as communicate, but that really is kind of the crux of it. That we can make things available to everyone.
Well, it sounds like there's expectations of kids are going to be busy, and as long as you communicate, that's really goes really far, is what I'm hearing so far. We got a question in the oh, Eric, did you want to say something?
Yeah, just to add on that, I think it's for us at least, especially with the demands that some of the things that my kids were in particular, it was crucial for us to communicate to those directors, the band director, the football coach, the show choir director, that, hey, there could be some conflicts here, but this is why, and do that up front at the very beginning. Hey, my kid's involved in scouts. There could be some conflicts. Obviously, we want to work out as few of those as possible, but letting them know that your kid is working to be well-rounded and not just going to miss at the last minute for whatever reason, I think really helped us in that circle, but with support from the teachers and the coaches and such.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Because as long as we know what's going on, we're usually really flexible about things. Is like, it's when people don't tell us anything, then we just have to guess, and whether it's right or wrong. And sometimes we're right, sometimes we're wrong. And if we can avoid the guesswork, we're usually in a far better place collectively.
Yeah, Shelley?
I totally agree with everything Eric and Valerie said. Communication is key, and the fact Eric mentioned, we'll be there when you get back from whatever you have to do. That is really important. And I was very fortunate in 44 to have a very strong group of leaders, and we always had each other's back because things come up all the time and you have to miss or things. And that's what I meant when I talked about follow-up. I know that we might miss physically, but we really wouldn't miss because there would be follow-up and we could trust that.
Very good. Okay. We got a couple of questions in the chat. First one is being marching band required for students who are in band at your school? I think that's Dr. Valerie. I think that one's for you.
You're muted, Val.
Oh, go ahead and unmute, Dr. Valerie.
Okay, sorry about that. My phone was not happy right then. If they are a part of the band program, the marching band is required.
Okay.
Yeah, they can't just do concert season. They have to do marching and concert season.
Okay. Another question is, would you say that downtime, without activities or obligations being downtime, is also important to reserve time on a kid's schedule?
I'll jump on that first. We were exceedingly worried about the amount of things that my oldest son, Caden, was getting involved with, and we consulted with his pediatrician and basically just asked, when do we say no? How much do we allow? This is getting, because he was getting involved in so many things. There were just no extra time in the day, and the pediatrician said, is he handling it? And we had to say yes. And he said, well, when he can't handle it, that's when you need to step in. And honestly, I think letting him be involved in all those different things, and I've mentioned a bunch of them, but I mean, there was plays and He was in the academic ACE team. He was going on math field days and just all kinds of stuff all the time. He had two more things on his schedule that we didn't even know about. And but that really taught him time management and taught him how to get through all those other things. And he was able to handle it. So he figured out his own downtime. We didn't have to schedule it in for him or anything like that.
Can I add on to that? And one of the things that I try to be fairly mindful of is their mental health. In that, if I see that they're starting to get stressed out, then I'll talk to them and say, hey, what's going on? And they say, oh, I've got a lot on my plate. And so then I try to help them with coping skills and things like that. So we're trying to be sensitive to them as well. And if it looks, if we get the idea that, hey, this is a little bit much, we need to back off a little bit, then I know, at least I do, is I try to be a little bit more aware and try to be more open to how they are, and to not put them down the rabbit hole of being overwhelmed, because I know that if they're overwhelmed, then it's hard to function on any level. So, and they can't be successful at anything. So I try to be more mindful of them holistically, so that they can be successful.
Okay. So we're actually kind of discussing a couple of different perspectives, one from a scout perspective and another from an adult leader perspective, and rightfully so, because scouting is a volunteer organization and it does not run without adult volunteers. So I think, both are equally important. I had a question. When is a good time to cancel an activity? Say you got an activity and a majority of the scouts cancel, or you don't know if they're going to come, but you want to have the activity because those few scouts that will come, and of course you want to be able to provide the programming for as many scouts as you can. But where's that fine line where you're not going to have the participation versus some of the more reliable scouts will be there?
In my estimation, as long as you have two scouts, the activity goes on. If you're down to one scout, then you're probably going to cancel it. But sometimes other things are going to override, and people just aren't going to be available. But we have the kids create the calendar themselves, so hopefully we're looking forward and we're talking about school activities and other things that might preclude them being able to join us. But sometimes things happen, and we have had outings where we've only had two scouts. We've had 4 leaders and 2 scouts. We've had more leaders than scouts. But there's nothing wrong with that. Those 2 scouts had a great time, and the program was there for them. They came back, and I think actually had such a great time that the other kids were sad that they couldn't go. So the next outing was much better attended.
Hey, I'm going to jump in real quick and say that you hit on it, but you didn't realize you hit on it. There needs to be at least 2 scouts, because every scout needs to have a buddy, and we have to make sure that our youth protection rules are followed, and those would be the 2 biggies. If the youth doesn't have a buddy and you can't meet the youth protection guidelines, then you probably ought to pull the plug. But other than that, I like what you're saying.
Okay. Well, if you have questions, don't be shy about putting them in the chat there. Another question is, you have multiple activities going on. You kind of have to choose. What's your metrics? How do you go about choosing or talking through with your child which one would be a good activity to do if you can only do one?
Well, I'll jump on that one again. If take that, we would just talk about, okay, like in particular, football was always on Friday nights. All camping trips started on Friday nights. So there were a plethora of camping trips that we would show up Saturday morning, that we would, yeah, still be part of, just not 100%. We didn't get there until 6 a.m. or until 12 p.m., depending on where the camp out was going to be. And same thing with band. If they had a band competition, as soon as that was over, we'd hop in the car and show up to the scouting event, or vice versa, and just try and make it work the best we can. And and then the rest of it is it a mandatory activity? Like with show choir, you can't miss a competition. With band, you couldn't miss a competition. With football, if you missed a game, you're going to suffer in playtime. So how dire is the other event versus the event that you want to go to with scouts?
That's a good point. Shelley or Dr. Valerie, you have any?
On the same thing, and on the other hand, is it a court of honor or something, or just a hockey practice? So we would have to weigh that, but same along the same lines. We just would discuss it and decide which one we needed to. And sometimes, I had two kids going separate ways, but like I circle back to the first thing I said. You have a network of other parents that you can rely on because they rely on you as well.
Now expand on that a little bit. Now, a network of parents, would you like take turns taking kids' activities?
Yes, picking up, dropping off. I had a network of a combination of teammates from teams and scout parents, other scout parents. So you can't be everywhere at every single breath that they take. So, if you have very active children, you know that. And I don't think my husband and I saw each other for 5 years, but we divided and conquered. And sometimes that wasn't even good enough because somebody had to work. So yes, we called on a network of parents who were on the same teams or in the same troop.
Eric, did you have a network of parents as well?
We did. It didn't cut. I mean, especially in scouting, there were times, that I had to take Gavin, my younger, to something, and I'd have somebody from the troop come pick up my oldest for the outing, or whatever the case may be. And then the same thing for practices. Hey, I'm out with one kid. Can you give my kid a ride home from practice? And then, obviously we would turn around and do the same thing. One thing on that note that we found extremely helpful was to intentionally make friends with the parents in the other organizations, whether it was football, show choir, whatever. With football, one of the things that we instituted that kind of hit it off was on Wednesday night, we just took turns as parents bringing dinner to the field, and everybody would provide dinner basically once a season or so, each family. And it was just like a picnic dinner there at the field that all the parents could eat, but it really made some camaraderie come together and some support. And it was a lot easier then to look at, a parent and say, hey, would you mind picking up my kid? Because I really can't. Or, you had those friendships. It wasn't just cold relationships.
Same thing. Lacrosse dinner was Thursday. I think it still is. And we also had football dinners. Same thing. That's a great idea.
Dr. Valerie, do you see that happening around your band?
Yeah, we have. And this happened more prior to COVID, before I was hired there. But they would have more time where they would interact more and have those community type dinners and situation. But I have with my students, if there's a practice and for ease of transportation, I'll stay after work and just stay at the school so that the kids have a place that they can hang, and they can go get something to eat, at the 7-Eleven across the street or something like that. And so I'll do that just for ease of transportation, because then I know that students don't have a reason to miss. If they know that I'm there and they can get something to eat, then they don't have a reason to miss band rehearsal. So I try to do a lot of that so that there's no excuse. We provide transportation to competitions and whatnot, so they don't have to take the guesswork of, well, how am I going to get there? Or so we do a lot of that, and we try to make it as easy for students and families to make their life's work for that.
And of course, all your students make the right decision and go to band, right?
Well, of course they do. They all try to do the right thing, but they have these, and sometimes when conflicts arise with, say, we have a band practice, but then they're involved in some athletic sport, and then they have a game the same night as a band practice, then I'll say, look, a competition will always trump a practice. And so we try to keep that same collective thought amongst the coaches and the different teachers that performances, competitions will always trump a practice.
And as an educator, you're okay with that?
I have to be, otherwise I wouldn't have a program. Yeah. So we just have to work together at it. And is it perfect? No, but it is what it is in this day and age. And so, and when I taught higher education for 20 years, and I taught at schools that were very athletic emphasis, and they, we had to have the same meetings between the different ensemble directors and the coaches. It's like, look, performances trump practices. So if I said, think about it, if the roles were reversed, they would have a practice, but we have a performance, that kind of thing. Likewise, if there's a football game on a night where we're supposed to have a practice, then of course they need to be at that football game. So we just have to do that to all get along.
So if the kids decides to do the opposite, maybe not the right thing, maybe one would say that would be a sign of maybe the child is just taking on too many responsibilities. Would you agree with that, maybe?
Yeah, to a certain extent, yeah. Part of it, but sometimes the lazy factor gets in the way too. The I don't want to do it, and then maybe they need to reassess, their involvement. And not that happens very often, but at the same time, it does happen. And the reality is, if they don't want to be there, I don't want to force them to stay.
Mm-hmm.
So
that kind of goes back to what you were saying, Eric. The pediatrician said if your child can handle it, then that's fine. I was wondering if the pediatrician went on and said anything further of behaviors and actions that would indicate that your child is overworked and over participating and maybe stretching themselves a little bit too thin? Or is that something more individual a parent would pick up on their child?
Yeah, I think it really comes down to being, having that parental check-in, how are things going? How you feeling? And sometimes, not that you're going to make them miss an activity per se, but maybe after you pick them up from the activity, depending on the age or whatever, maybe you take them for the ice cream, or maybe you take them for the sub or a pizza, and just have some, parent conversational time instead of letting them continue to grind. Just remove them from that situation, not necessarily for a long period of time, but just give them something else to think about for a half an hour, an hour that's pleasurable, that's outside of that grind routine. But I think it's going to be absolutely individualized for each kid. And I did see this question in the chat about if any leaders ever tried to make the kids feel guilty for choosing something else. We stress to the troop and to the sports teams that we as parents, we're trying to raise rounded kids. And the fact that they were choosing to do other things other than just scouting or football or show choir, that pretty much was our answer to that, and we embodied that in the kids. Is they wanted to be able to do those things so they would be well-rounded and have all those different, without show choir they would have never traveled to Ohio and done those things. Without Boy Scouts, they would have never gone on all the hikes and the camping and the great Order of the Arrow experiences. And without football, they wouldn't have gotten all of those great experiences of travel and teammanship. So when we did actually have one assistant scoutmaster who kind of raised a little something about it, but the kids themselves rebuffed it because we had embodied in them to be well-rounded was important.
Kelly? Do you have anything to
Sorry,
add?
I was almost speaking on mute.
Mhm.
Same thing. We were very involved as leaders, my husband and I. So I don't know. I think that we also embodied a spirit of well-rounded. I never really encountered that. I don't know. We were very involved as leaders, so I don't know that we were making anyone feel guilty. So I can't really answer that. We
No,
didn't
that's
have
fine.
that
That's fine.
experience.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, we have another question in the chat, and I'll throw it up to the panel here. As a parent, I let my kids decide what activities they go to. As a leader, I just ask the parents and scouts tell me when they are going to miss. Well, that's not really a question though, is it? Okay. No, that's good advice from Adam Ranson there.
Hey, Mike, to
Okay.
kind of piggyback on that and some of the things that Eric was saying and some others, I was just kind of ruminating while you guys were talking, but I feel like there's lessons here for our kids also by our actions and by what we allow them to do and how we work them through it. I know we had these conversations with our two because we're kind of same in the same boat, but talking about like which opportunities should you take part in and that feed your soul or spiritual things and physical things and artistic things and things that are going to make you a well-rounded person, but also still having that, just teaching them balance, and also I don't know, maybe just physically having, kind of like Shelley mentioned, giving them the responsibility for keeping track of their stuff that they need for these activities. Um, you know, kind of the cerebral decisions, but also the physical balance of getting to everything that you need to get to and getting the stuff done that you need to get to for to make each of those activities worthwhile, including scouting.
Packing your own things, washing your own laundry.
Yep.
Yeah.
Getting your homework done, still getting enough sleep, still, maybe exercising, that sort of thing that carries on through the rest of your life, hopefully. I think I'm still learning balance.
Well, and one of the things that we fight against as leaders, as parents, we knew we weren't going to do this, but as leaders, you get kids who are get committed into travel teams. And some of these travel teams for basketball, football, whatever it is, get very intense as far as practices, and you can't miss, and it's almost a year-round thing.
I was going to say
And
long seasons.
yeah, it is. It is. It's quite a
Crazy.
long season, and we've had a couple kids that, again, we just tried to let them know that door was open, and really kind of stress to the parents that, you might want to think about, that whole being well-rounded situation, because that does come into play later on in life. And if all they did was play basketball from the time they were 8 till the time they were 18, what other experience did they have?
Yeah. Shelley, you mentioned you didn't see your husband for 5 years. That's the subject of our next question,
No.
actually. How do the
Right.
parents get downtime and take care of their own well-being. I mean, I don't think not seeing your spouse for 5 years would be a good thing.
I was
I
exaggerating.
know you were, but I'm taking advantage of it.
No, but I'll tell you what though, when we have family dinners, which we also made a priority, they were much appreciated because everybody was there. I I'm a really bad person to ask about work-life balance. I don't probably practice it as well as some, but I think staying involved, even in the activity with my family, you know, because we may not be at home, but we're still all doing this together. You know what I mean? So that I get energy from that, from doing things with my family and spending time with them. Running around most weeknights and weekends, it is rough. We sit back now and wonder how we did it. I don't know, but I didn't feel it at the time, so I guess I'm not the greatest person to ask. I'm not known for my work-life balance.
Eric, how did you take care of your own well-being?
Well, I mean, I think it was a family decision to do those things. I mean, we were going to support the kids and what they wanted to do, and we were going to make it work. And there were plenty of times that, you know, one of them would come from football practice, stinky, sweaty, and walk into a show choir competition and sit down in the auditorium because it was a family affair. When you got done with what you were doing, you were going to go support the other one. And it was just a family. We just did it all as a family.
Dr. Valerie, do you ever have parents express overwhelmness to you? And if so, what have you told them?
Yes. The short answer is yes. We've got overwhelmed parents everywhere, and so they go, how do we do this? And part of it is I go back to the village concept, and that we're all here to help each other out, and if we need to take turns in helping and doing XYZ task, then we'll make it work, you know. And so part of it is just knowing that there's a support system within the parents and the leaders, that hey, we get it, we understand it, that's true, you know, we're all on the struggle bus, let's try to help each other out. And so that's the way, kind of the mentality of how we do it in terms of our organization, is that we just try to help each other out, because you know the struggle bus is a real thing, and so we just try to help each other out and get through it one day at a time, and help each other out the best we can.
I agree, Valerie. And we look back now, we were so lucky to have the leaders in our pack and our troop that we did. I mean, there was Tim and Mark and Dan McNeil, and I knew I could always rely on someone if I needed help. So that's really important, to stick together, the village concept.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer in it, because otherwise you're going to be spinning your wheels in the mud, and it's not going to be fun.
Well, thank you, Shelley, Eric, and Dr. Valerie for coming to this village and telling us your tips and tricks and your great advice. We really appreciate it very much.
Thank you for inviting us.
Thank you.
Great.
It was my honor. Oh, I'm sorry, Eric.
No, you are fine. That's exactly right. It was our honor to be here.
Thank you. Stacy?
Well, we really, really appreciate it, guys. I cannot even believe that we've been talking for an hour. It's flown by. Hopefully, folks have gotten some of their questions answered. And like we said, we're just looking for a conversation. You know, we're all kind of in the same boat and struggle with the same thing. So it's good to hear how other people have dealt with it, and just keep that discussion going. And the things that I heard were, you know, count on your village and communicate frequently. So those are great messages. We appreciate it, guys. We are very close to being done. Real quick, we have an announcement from my husband, Dan Marner, who would like to tell you a little bit about the Wood Badge event being planned for next year. And then we'll do a couple announcements and a Scoutmasters minute. So strap on your seatbelts.
she introduced me as her husband. I'm also Mountain Area Council's council training chair,
There's
which
that.
is why I'm pestering you about this, because I wanted to make everyone aware that registration for our 2024 Wood Badge course is now open on the council calendar. If you're not familiar with Wood Badge, it's a leadership training program for adult scouters. It's worldwide. Everywhere there's scouting, there's Wood Badge, and it's useful no matter what position you hold in scouting. It teaches team dynamics and provides a deeper understanding of scouting's goals, its methods, and its values. And coming out of it, you'll also set meaningful goals for improving your unit or scouting in general, and follow up on those in the next 18 months after the course. The dates for the course are September 20th to 22nd, 2024, and October 5th and 6th. You need to attend both weekends. So that first weekend's a 3-day weekend, so you'll have to take that Friday off, but the second weekend is just a standard weekend. The cost is $275 if you put a deposit down by the end of the year, which, I know that's a little sticker shock there, but you have to remember that includes 5 days of camping, the food, a couple shirts, a hat, and a lot of program materials. So consider it a good value, comparable to sending a scout to summer camp. It's the same basic cost, food's not cheap. If you have any questions, or if you're just curious what Wood Badge is like, find a fellow scouter with those wooden beads on a leather thong around their neck. And my goal was to hold them up and show them to you here, but obviously we're having some technical difficulties on this end.
Tim's doing it.
Okay.
Yay!
So with beads like
Pretty
that
good
around their
beads.
neck, and ask them what it's all about, and I bet you'll get a really enthusiastic response. You can also contact the course director, who's Dan McNeil. He's going to do a fantastic job. Or me, the training chair, or the council office. You can find that contact information on the course registration page. To get to the course registration page on the macbsa.org website, click on training in the top bar up top and click on Wood Badge, and that'll take you right to it. I know it's around a year away, and I'll be pestering you between now and then. We'll probably get some other guest speakers besides me, so other people think it's great too. But the staff are already planning. We'll probably have 6 or 8 planning sessions. So actually, we're already having a monthly planning session, but all the staff are going to be getting together for training sessions before too long. So a year is not that far away. If you're interested, get it on your calendar now to make sure it's available.
Alex put the event in the chat, so if you want to register right now, you can. I'm going.
Thanks for your time, everybody.
All right, Miss Valerie Westfall. Since we have 2 Valeries tonight, I'm just going to give you a little highlight of the calendar.
All right. As always, we have a very busy month ahead of us, starting with this weekend. The 15th through the 17th is OA Fall Induction, followed by September the 20th, which is Trail the to Eagle Seminar. It's for parents and scouts who are working towards getting their eagle. You have to register. It's a Zoom call. There is no cost. It's from 7 to 9 p.m. on the 20th. I thought Dan might be talking about the next 2. For our Cub Scouts, September 22nd through the 23rd is Baloo training. And for our Scouts BSA, the 23rd through the 24th is IOLS training. There is a fee for both of those. Baloo is $45 because we've missed the opening. That registration ends this Friday. For IOLS, it also ends this Friday, and the cost is $35. I have a little problem with the calendar because on September the 23rd is WVU football game. It's Scout Day. Tickets are available for $40. We've already purchased our tickets, but on the calendar, it says it's the 30th, and that would be a problem for me. I don't know how I do both things. On the 30th, it's Cub Adventure Day. This is free, but you do need to sign up. Registration ends for that on the 27th, which is open to all Cub Scouts and their friends who might be interested in joining Scouts BSA. And on the 30th through October 1st, it's OA Vigil Weekend with a breakfast on Sunday, which if you pay before the 22nd of September is $15. After that, it's $20. And the 10th of October, the 6th through the 8th is the Climbery, which is a climbing and shooting and wonderful activity for 500 scouts who are coming to visit our camp. We're real excited. Brian and I are going to be working the shooting sports area. If any of you are free, we can always use someone with extra pair of eyes when you have everyone shooting. And on the 10th of October will be our next Scouters Cracker Barrel. And while I am talking about upcoming events for October, I'm going to put my husband on and let him tell you about something else.
The Wood Badge reunion is October the 14th, and registration is open on the council website on the calendar. And we encourage all Wood Badge Scouters to attend, whether you got your Wood Badge here in Mountaineer Area Council or in another council, whether you got it in 2021 in our course or whether you got it in the 1980s or the 1990s. It's a night full of fun and sharing. There'll be door prizes and games, at least a couple of maybe 3 beading ceremonies. Hopefully we'll get our last 3 folks getting their beads that night. So please do register for that. And just if I could add a footnote to Dan's earlier comments about next year's course, I know that cost may scare some of you away, but very often a pack or a troop will subsidize some or all of the cost for the leaders to attend. So if your unit is in a position to do that, perhaps they can help you with some or all of the cost. Thank you.
Thank you, West Falls. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right. And now I'm going to turn it over to Tim Rumble to give us some closing notes.
Thanks, Stacy. First of all, I'll try to keep this very brief, but thank you all for attending tonight. Really humbled that the 3 folks that we invited to come tonight and share with us all did so. I'm so grateful, and I appreciate you so very much for doing that. And I think it was important for us to hear that. And I think that I think our kids need to hear some of that message too. One of the things that as far as Scoutmaster Minute, to wrap things up, one of the things that I said a few weeks ago, or a few months ago rather, on my Scoutmaster Minute was, ask the question, which is a popular question nowadays, is what's your why? Why do you do what you do? What is your why? And I was reminded tonight what my why is. And it's guys like Eric. And yes, he did say he'd been a mortgage banker for 30 years. That was with a 3 and a 0. And Eric was one of my Eagles back in the day. So that's part of why I continue to do what I do, is to be able to come back 30 years later, actually 30 plus years later, and see these kids that came up through the program and what an impact it had on them. And not me, but what the impact the program had on them. So thank you very much for being here, Eric, and reminding me of what my why is tonight. And I hope that you all find your why, that you do this and make it a priority in your life. I'm going to share, I love Baden-Powell quotes. And for anybody on the call that doesn't know, Baden-Powell is the founder of Scouting, back a British, retired British military officer back in around 1900. And one of his quotes, I was reminded of a couple of days ago that I wanted to share with you tonight. And simply put, it is, and I may paraphrase a little bit, but a fisherman does not bait his hook with food that he likes. He baits the hook with food the fishes like. So as you think about delivering the program to the kids, bait your hook with the food that the kids like. With that, I again thank everyone for coming. Real quick, if our three guests can shoot me your USPS mailing address and an email, I'd appreciate that. I think, Eric, I have yours on file, but I don't think I have Shelle's or Valerie's. So if you could shoot me your mailing address, that would be great. And again, I appreciate everyone and look forward to seeing you at scouting activities over the next month. Good night, everyone.
Thanks, Tim. Thanks, everybody.
Oh, and thanks, Mike, for doing an outstanding job facilitating tonight.
Yes. Yay. Good to see all your faces.
Thank you all for having me.
Thank you for having us.
Oh, that was fantastic, guys. It was a really, really good discussion. You all